The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be for me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Two items to get to at the top of the show before we get to the main event of the evening. First and foremost, happy Friday, TGIF. This week felt a lot longer than it really was, and it should have felt shorter because of Memorial Day being Monday, but it just felt like this week kind of, drug along. But here we are, made it to the finish line. Maybe, and I think it was because in the particular area where I live, it was raining every day for like 7-8 days straight. And so we finally saw sun on Thursday, and today was a beautiful day. So we're getting out on the grill tomorrow. Grill Master T at your service. I will be outside on the deck for the first time in our brand new house. It's still new to us. We still haven't finished putting everything away and putting everything up the way we want it. So it's still new. But it'll be the first time we get out on the deck, fire up the grill. Should be a lot of fun tomorrow, just to eat some good food, enjoy some good weather, and catch some rays. So shout out to everybody, man, who enjoys the simple things in life, as I do. Happy Friday to all of you guys, and enjoy the weather this weekend for sure. Next thing that I wanted to address, first things first. I met a really cool guy today, someone that watches the show. Ran into him at Wegmans. I feel like I run into more people at Wegmans than anywhere else. I was up in the Woodbridge area, and I ran into Sanford. Cool guy. Chopped it up for like 25 minutes or so, just talking ball, man, just talking Commanders. And it was a blast, man. Shout out to my guy Sanford. We had a nice convo today. So you never know when you're more likely to catch me, your man Louie T, at Wegmans than you are a Commanders event. A game, practice, training camp, all of that good stuff. You're more likely to catch me at Wegmans or the gym. I run into quite a few people at the gym as well. That's where I was actually coming from. Than you are at a Commanders event. Is that bad? It shouldn't be bad, right? I mean, those are everyday life occurrences, things you do on a daily basis. But you're more likely to catch me in the field than at the field, if that makes sense. Last item, and then we'll get to the main event of the evening. We had a super chat right as we got off of our last stream. We were talking about positional battles, and I rattled off like 3 or 4 that are going to be really intriguing as we get closer to and then actually into training camp. And Command OGJ got in at the last second, but by that time I had already pressed the button, had already ended the stream. So I wasn't able to get to his super chat, but I saw it and I told myself, I'm going to write it down and we're going to address this on the next stream. Here we are. I wrote it down. So shout out to Command OGJ. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Command OGJ, writes, Lou, is TE3 a battle? We were talking about positional battles. I did not mention the tight end position. Is TE3 a positional battle? So let's set the stage. TE1, newest acquisition at the tight end position, Chigakonkwo. TE2, or as I like to say, all-time TE2, John Bates. John Damn Bates. So those 2 spots are spoken for. Is there a battle at TE3 between Ben Sinnott and fill in the blank, right? Whether you think That is Colson Yankoff, which that would be the natural response. But you ask Ed, it could be somebody else. Lawrence Cager. So either way, is there actually an opportunity for someone to leapfrog Ben Sinnott? That's basically what you're asking. Whether it's Lawrence Cager or Colson Yankoff, my easy, low-hanging fruit answer is no. There's no TE3 battle going on. They're not going to cut Ben Sinnott as a second-round pick. What the answer should be, however, and the thing that we cannot say definitively, is that there isn't a battle. We can't say that there isn't one. I personally don't think there is a battle because of Ben Sinnott's draft standing. But if you are to believe what they've told us, and I have no reason not to, they haven't lied to me yet, and I always tell you this, until they lie to me, I have no reason to doubt the things that they say. They've been straightforward and very transparent throughout the entire process to this point. And DQ has said they preach competition at every turn. Doesn't matter when you were drafted, how much money you're making, they preach competition. You hear that, and it's sort of cliche because you want to preach competition, but we all know the truth. They spent a first-round pick on Sonny Styles. There is no competition. Sonny Styles is your starting middle linebacker. But they're going to preach competition. He got drafted in the first round. They love Antonio Williams. They spent a third-round pick on him. There's no competition for the slot. He's running with the twos right now. But we all know when the dust settles and the smoke clears, Antonio Williams will be your starting slot receiver for the Washington Commanders on September 13th when they take on the Philadelphia Eagles at the link. And so while I feel like there should be a battle for tight end 3, what has Ben Sinnott done to lock up any position on this roster? He should be fighting for his roster life, just like Kane Medrano will be as a 6th-round pick. Had Ben Sinnott been a 5th-round pick, he wouldn't be on this roster this year if he continues to produce at the level that he's produced at. He wouldn't be a guy that we would just automatically add on to the roster. The only thing keeping Ben Sinnott intact on this roster is he was drafted in the 2nd round. If Ben Sinnott were a 5th, a 6th, or a 7th-round pick, this would be a totally different conversation. And to me, that's not fair if you claim that competition is at the core of this team's foundational fiber. If you claim that at this team's core and foundational fiber, you will find, if you start peeling back the layers, you will find competition, then yes, there should be a tight end 3 battle. Because Ben Sinnott has done nothing to solidify that spot as of right now. The only thing giving him the rights to TE3 as we speak is the fact that he's got 2nd-round pick attached to his name. So that was the long answer. Short answer, no, I don't think there's a tight end 3 battle. Long answer is there should be. There should be a tight end 3 battle because Ben Sinnott has not warranted a roster spot with his name on it etched in stone. It shouldn't even be written in pen right now. Ben Sinnott's name on this roster should be written in number 2 pencil. Faintly, I may add, but it's not. It's written in marker right now. You can't erase it, and he's not going anywhere. Not this year, at least. Maybe next year. Anyway, I digress. So, we got another ESPN article. They've been coming out hot and heavy here of late, and I enjoy them. These have been quick reads. Yesterday, we had the article from Bill Barnwell, and usually those are war and peace novels that he writes. But he blessed us this time. He split it up. Instead of doing the entire NFL, he did the AFC first, and he did the NFC last. And so it was just the NFC. It made it a much more palatable read. And so I was able to share that information with you. He talked about the best and worst offseason moves for each team in the NFC. I gave you what he said. We went through his best and his worst. His best was the Commanders upgrading the secondary. We still probably feel like as fans, there's more to do there in the secondary, but it's no doubt, undoubtedly, it's a better secondary than it was last year. And Bill Barnwell went through all the reasons as to why. He went through the worst move, and that was moving on from center Tyler Biadasz without getting anything in return for him in terms of draft capital and not having a direct succession plan to move on from him, which we didn't. We clearly thought we were going to be able to sign Tyler Linderbaum, and when that fell through, we were just staring at Nick Allegretti like, guess you're up, right? So now they have a succession plan in place in Matt Golban, but before that they didn't. So the reason I bring up yesterday's article is because I believe it ties into what I want to talk about today. All right. So we talked about yesterday and Bill Barnwell, talking about this team upgrading the secondary, which they have. Now, I believe the depth in the secondary, very, very flaky and questionable. But the frontline talent and the starters are an upgrade over last year's talent in the secondary. But the depth, very questionable at this point. With that said, it's a better back end. And today we're going to talk about the front end, the front seven. Do the Commanders have the best, the most improved front seven in the National Football League? According to ESPN's Ben Solak, they're in the mix. Let's talk about what Solak had to say. So this is his article that he published today, 2026 NFL offseason, ranking the top 10 biggest position upgrades. So the 10 teams or 10 positions that have been upgraded the best according to Ben Solak. And this is irregardless of position. He's not going through every position and saying what team upgraded it the most. He's just ranking the 10 best upgrades. Which position group was bad last year and now it is significantly better, right? His top 10. All right, so he starts with, I'll just read the entire article. I feel like this is a really quick read. We'll go through it quickly. He says, it's the end of May. NFL free agency is done. Trades are most likely done. Looking at you, A.J. Brown, the draft is done. Even the second wave of post-draft free agency is wrapping up with players like Juwan Jennings, who signed with the Minnesota Vikings, and Dante Fowler Jr., our old friend, signing with the Seattle Seahawks, committing to teams. Save for the supplemental draft in late June, which might end up mattering this year with Brandon Sorsby. If you haven't followed that story, this is a guy that got essentially popped for gambling in college football, betting on his own games, and checked himself into rehab. And I can't see any way, shape, or form this guy's allowed to play college football again. So he's probably going to have to enter himself into the NFL supplemental draft. This was a guy that was going to be one of the higher rated quarterback prospects. Had he gone back to school, had no issues, none of this ever cropped up, he was going to be a guy that was going to be competing to be one of the top quarterbacks selected. So you got to imagine that a team is going to be interested in him and maybe a supplemental draft pick may be spent. We haven't seen a supplemental draft pick spent probably in the last 4 or 5 years. So it'll be a pretty big deal if he gets drafted in the supplemental draft. But he says all of the big offseason events for player acquisition are complete. With the dust settled, I listed the 10 positional groups I think improved the most from the end of the 2025 to the kickoff of the 2026 season, specific to teams. Plenty of groups that made big acquisitions failed to make the cut as their standard of play from last year was too high to begin with. For instance, Alex Anzalone and Josiah Trotter make a great new linebacking duo in Tampa Bay. And he says, and I admire how well the Bucs filled that hole, but they had such a great need only because they lost Levante David to retirement. And he was a great player right until the end. So while they may have filled that void very well, they weren't terrible last year. So the increase in production or the increase in the roster at that particular position isn't significantly better. He says, I'm focusing on the biggest net gains, similar to our draft, the net gain of where we drafted a player versus where they were slated to come off the board. We were one of the biggest winners of the draft from that standpoint, getting the most out of our picks, maximizing value. That's essentially what Ben Solak is trying to chart here. He says, I'm focusing on the biggest net gains from last season to now, not just the best additions. As such, here are my 10 groups that have taken the biggest leap over the past few months and what we can expect from them moving forward. So his number one leap is the Arizona Cardinals. Their running back room was an atrocity last year. Michael Carter, Amari DeMarcado, and if you remember, Amari DeMarcado was the culprit who cost me the survivor pool last year when he decided to stick the ball out and drop it right before he got into the end zone against the Tennessee Titans. They ended up losing that football game. They would have gone up like 34-3 in that game. Instead, they left the door slightly ajar. Titans came back, walked them down, ended up winning the game. Obviously, they had other running backs in the backfield last year, but James Conner got hurt, and so did Trey Benson. It was not a great room last year. Now, all of a sudden, adding Jeremiah Love with the 3rd overall pick and Tyler Algier in free agency, this is a formidable 1-2 punch, and you still have James Conner, and you still have Trey Benson. It's a hell of a running back room. Now, says 5 running backs had at least 40 touches for the Cardinals last season, which is way too many for running backs. Injuries to James Conner, and Trey Benson forced Arizona into a 3-man rotation with Carter, Bam Knight, and DeMarcado. Carter and Knight were the early down ball carriers, while DeMarcado was the 3rd down scat back. So he goes through their whole situation and talks about why they were the biggest upgrades. Let's see. He said he actually brings up an interesting. I didn't know if you could do this: sign a guy to a free agent deal and then trade him before he even plays a snap for you. I don't know if that is allowed in the NFL, but he says with the drafting of Love, Algier becomes an interesting trade candidate. Even in this young NFL offseason, there are teams with fluctuating running back rooms. Packers running back Josh Jacobs was arrested this week, then released amid an ongoing investigation into domestic violence charges. His status for the 2026 season is in question. Buccaneers running back Bucky Irvin is out for the summer and potentially into the fall with a lingering shoulder issue. And the Jags running back room featuring Bashol Tutin and Chris Rodriguez Jr. is still mighty thin. If the Cardinals want to trade Algier, despite signing him to a multi-year free agent contract just months ago, they should have suitors. And he didn't sign some robust deal, so it's an easy contract to move if they so choose. Vegas Raiders, linebackers. All right. So they have the biggest upgrade in linebackers in the league right now, according to Ben Solak. He says Devin White, Landon Roberts, and Jamal Adams are all out. Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean are in as replacements and guys that are coming and upgrade that linebacker room. We know how I feel about Quay Walker. Wanted him here in Washington. I'm glad we got Sonny Styles, but Quay Walker was a guy that I wanted in free agency. Glad we got Leo Chanel, right? I feel like we got 2 dogs, but Quay Walker is a dog now. He's a dog that when you let him off the leash, he'll bite anybody, including an official. He's been thrown out of NFL games before, so he's a bit of a loose cannon, right? I'll take my guys that understand, down and distance, situational football, and not looking to pick up senseless penalties. But look, had we signed Quay Walker, I would have been vouching for him. But Nakobe Dean is a guy, when he's healthy, he can be problematic. Problem is, can he stay healthy? So total overhaul in Vegas. As not one of the 4 linebackers to get over 200 snaps last season returns to play for the Raiders. Jermaine Pratt IV was cut during the season. So Raiders make a ton of changes at the linebacker position. And then voila, what do you know? Look who is number 3 right behind the Raiders. Number 2 in the linebacker department, the Washington Commanders. All right, with their linebacking core. Last year, Bobby Wagner was here. Bobby Wagner is out. In comes Leo Chanel and Sonny Styles. You went from having a morbidly slow linebacking core a season ago to an exceptionally athletic group now with the additions of Sonny Styles and Leo Chanel. Let's talk about what Ben Solak had to say. One of the more brutal declines of the past few years has come from Wagner. As smart as they come, Wagner has continued racking up tackle numbers even in the twilight of his career, with 162 last season and a career best 183 in 2023 with the Seahawks. He was making all-pro teams as recently as 2024, as we know, for his incredible durability and nose for the football carrier. He says, however, Wagner's lack of speed was a glaring weakness for the Commanders' defense over the past 2 seasons, especially in 2025. Talk about it, Ben. In 2025, Wagner's max speed topped out at 18.2 miles per hour, according to Next Gen Stats tracking data. 5th slowest among starting off-ball linebackers. I can't even imagine who was the 4 that were slower. His average speed of 9.1. You could run 9.1 miles an hour right now. You could. I don't care how old you are. If you're 77, you can run 9.1 miles per hour. I can go outside and run 9.1 miles an hour right now. I promise you. You can too. Was dead last in the National Football League. The difference between Wagner and the second worst, Cody Simon, was as large as the difference between Simon and the 14th worst. So think about that for a second. The next closest guy, probably this guy, Cody Simon, probably was tracked at like 14.2. Like there's such a dramatic gap. God, he was so slow. And we watched it. The Falcons game when Bijan smoked him off around the corner. It was painful watching him cover running backs out of the backfield, or at least attempt to. Painful. Wagner lacked explosiveness and change of direction along with true top-line speed. And as such, he could not get where he needed to be in coverage. He allowed a 109.4 passer rating when targeted. Ouch. He says that was 12th among all linebackers. The 444 yards after the catch he gave up was the most of any linebacker in the league. We watched those 444 yards and we cringed every time somehow Joe Witt Jr. would allow this man to be in man-to-man coverage against somebody's shifty, speedy linebacker. And we would ask the question, why? Tell him that it's Bobby Wagner. Why? Why would you do him that way? And I say, why? Tell him that it's Bobby Wagner. Why would you do him that way? Why would you do him that way? We can't keep living this way. We don't have to worry about that anymore, guys. In free agency, the Commanders let Wagner hit the open market and sign Chanel from the Chiefs as a potential replacement. Chanel is younger and faster than Wagner, and in new defensive coordinator Durante Jones' system, he will be used as a rusher from on and off ball alignments. But Chanel was a rotational player in Kansas City who didn't spend much time in coverage, and his role in the new defense could be redundant with incumbent Frankie Louvu's ideal job. More was needed. The stars aligned in the draft when Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles fell to Washington at number 7. Styles is a converted safety who brings the coverage chops sorely lacking in Washington's linebacker room. At his size, 6'5", with an 81-inch wingspan, and with his speed of 4.46, 40-yard dash, he occupies a ton more space in zone coverage than the average linebacker. Styles hasn't taken a snap of NFL football yet, so I don't want to get over my skis here, but this is a player with revolutionary potential. Did you hear that? Revolutionary potential. The chance to change the game and the way it is played at the linebacker position. When we throw around the phrase generational talent, which gets thrown around 50 million times on a yearly basis now, this is when you throw around that type of term. When you see a guy at a position with the type of measurables that you've never seen before at that position and the athletic profile to match, that's when you can start throwing around. And the brains, which is very important. We've seen a ton of athletes come and go in this league at various positions, elite athletes that didn't have it upstairs. This is a guy that not only has the frame, the athleticism, but also the brain to match. His dad, a former NFLer, a guy that has learned the game from someone who played it at a high level, at the highest level. He's a gym rat. He's a film rat. We got us one. Washington's linebackers were a mark for opposing offenses last season. This year, they should be a far faster, more versatile group, one that forces offensive attention elsewhere. All right. That was Ben Solak on the linebacking group. Let's keep going through the rest of this list. Look at our guy, Sonny Styles. Look at him. Titans, wide receivers. Makes a ton of sense. They spent the number 4 pick in the draft on Carnell Tate. And then before that, they signed Wan'Dale Robinson to a nice, 4 years, $77 or $71 million deal or something to that effect. So this was a group that was solid last year, but they didn't have a true number one because Calvin Ridley was in and out of the lineup. And I've always said Calvin Ridley probably better suited, especially at this juncture of his career, as a number 2. Now he could be a number 3 option if they hold on to him, because Tate will be your 1, Wan'Dale will be your 2. And if Calvin Ridley's your 3, you're pretty good shape. Van Jefferson out. Old Van Jefferson, who is now here in Washington. All right. When your top pick rookie quarterback ends up heavily targeting 2 day 3 rookie receivers, your wide receiver room needs some help. Alec Ayormanor, a 4th rounder, paced the Titans last season with 89 targets. Fellow 4th rounder and special teams ace Chamir Dike had 74 targets, just right behind tight end Chig Okonkwo, another one, new Washington Commander. So wide receivers for the Titans upgraded significantly. That's number 4. You go to number 5, the Cleveland Browns offensive line. Out, Joel Petonio, Jack Conklin, Ethic Posick, Cam Robinson, Wyatt Teller. Almost the entire starting 5 has been revamped. Yikes. In Spencer Fano, who they spent the 1st round pick on, Titus Howard, who they traded for from the Houston Texans, Elton Jenkins, we talked about him as a potential add here in Washington at the center position, Zion Johnson coming over from the Los Angeles Chargers, and Austin Barber, also added via the draft. No unit in the league was more emphatically overhauled than Cleveland's offensive line. 5 of the 6 leading snap getters from last year are no longer with the team. And 3 of them, Petonio, Teller, and Posick, were multi-year starters. It's tough to measure just how poorly that interior trio played, as the carousel at both tackle spots hamstrung the entire unit. But the Browns were 31st in adjusted line yards, 20th in pass block win rate, and 24th in run block win rate, and 32nd in quick pressure rate surrendered. It was comfortably a poor unit. Yeah, he goes on to talk about that. The Rams, cornerbacks. When you spend the type of capital that the Rams spent and resources on the cornerback position, they belong on this list. Out is Jacoby Durant, who is now in Dallas, the Cowboys, and Darius Williams retired. In is Trent McDuffie, who they traded a boatload of picks for, and Jalen Watson, who they signed in free agency, both of them coming over from Kansas City. All right. He said, you knew they'd be here. The Rams traded a 1st round pick and then some for McDuffie, then snagged his teammate Watson in free agency not a week later, rebuilding the cornerbacks room that was their Achilles heel during last year's run through the NFC playoffs. All right. And goes on to talk about that positional group. Look at our old friend, Emmanuel Forbes Jr. in the mix here. As we know, he's talking shit. You talking shit, bitch? He's talking shit about us. You know, payback don't have no expiration date or some shit he said. Whatever, bro. Whatever. We'll see you in late October, early November, whenever that Rams game is. Week 9 should be early November, I would guess. We'll see you then. Cincinnati Bengals defensive line is 7th on this list. Out is Trey Hendrickson. That was high profile and well documented. Joseph Osai also out. I think he signed with the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. In Boye Mafe coming over from the Super Bowl defending champion Seattle Seahawks. Dexter Lawrence II, we know about that massive trade that netted the Giants a additional first-round pick in this past spring's draft. Jonathan Allen, our old friend, was in Minnesota last year, got released, went to the Cincinnati Bengals. And Cassius Howell, probably the most explosive edge rusher in this past year's draft class. Undersized, shorter arms, super explosive. We'll see if this revamping of this defensive line helps what was one of the most porous defenses in football last season. The 2025 Bengals were dead last in pass rush, win rate 28.8%. Getting only 7 games from Hendrickson contributed to that performance, of course. But even then, Hendrickson was not his typical dominant self on pass downs. First rounder Shamar Stewart looked even raw than anticipated, which that's not a surprise to most of us who didn't like him during the draft process. And the much-needed ascension of Chris Jenkins Jr. or free agent signing TJ Slayton on the interior simply did not occur. So they have upgraded that. We'll see if that makes a massive difference or not. 8th on this list, the New York Giants, someone in our backyard. Their linebacking core. So they talked about 2 other teams already. The Raiders came in 2nd on this list with their upgrade of their linebacking room. We were right behind them, 3rd on the list of linebackers, 3rd overall and 2nd in the list in terms of linebacking groups. Now the Giants check in on the list of linebackers at number 8 with their group. Bobby Okereke out, Arvell Reese and Tremaine Edmonds in. Obviously, that's a massive upgrade over what they had last year. He says, earlier, I highlighted an NFC East team with a slow-footed veteran linebacker in need of an athletic spark. I could copy and paste much of that analysis here and call it a day. Well, let's just do that. They were slow last year. They were unathletic. They weren't able to cover in space. Now they have 2 really great athletes. And so now they should be able to do it similar to us, right? You go to number 9, and it's the Los Angeles Chargers. Their tight ends, okay, are number 9. Out, Tucker Fisk, Will Dissily, and Tyler Conklin. In, David Njoku and Charlie Kohler. I'm shocked that it took them this long to do this when your offensive coordinator is Greg Roman, who we know loves to throw the football to the tight end. Loves it. I was shocked that we didn't see some sort of athletically gifted tight end land in Los Angeles last year. I was really shocked. Now, they did draft Oronde Gadsden, who turned out to be a godsend for them. And it took them long enough, I felt like, to get him in the mix. I thought he would be someone that they would look to feature earlier in the season just because they didn't have anybody with his skill set. Now they have David Njoku, and they have an elite blocker in Charlie Kohler, who also can catch the football, but he's more so of a blocker. Now they have a problem at the tight end position with Oronde Gadsden and David Njoku. Those 2 tight end sets, and if they want to go 3 tight end sets with Charlie Kohler, good luck stopping that, right? 2 things are simultaneously true. The first, Oronde Gadsden was a nice find by Chargers GM Joe Horowitz in the 5th round of the 2025 draft, and he settled into a quality role as a downfield play-action target in the Chargers offense. The second, if a 5th round rookie tight end was a breakout star by week 6, your tight ends room was simply not very good. End of discussion, basically. All right. And then we get to number 10. And would you look at that? Making their second appearance on this list and the only team to be featured twice, which speaks to how bad our defense was a season ago. The Washington Commanders and their edge rushers. So they're second on the list of linebackers who have been upgraded, and they're second on the list of edge rushers who have been upgraded, or really they're the first, because the Bengals was their entire defensive line. This is just edge rushers, right? We go back, no other group had edge rushers. We got linebackers there, got defensive line with the Bengals, right? Corners, offensive line, wide receivers, and then we know the first two or the next two are linebackers, us and the Giants, and then number one are the Arizona Cardinals at the running back position. So I said all of that to say we're the only team with two positions on this list. And I've said this already. I've never seen this much depth and talent at edge rusher for the team that I root for. There have been other teams that have had way more talent than this, that have had a ton more depth than this. I've never seen this collection of talent at this particular position, one of the most impactful positions on the football field for my favorite team. I've never seen this before. So edge rushers checks in at number 10, which if you're upgrading both the linebacker and edge rushing positions and you feel like they're top 10 upgraded positions in this league, you're basically saying we are one of the most upgraded, front sevens in football, if not the most upgraded. If the linebackers are upgraded, the edge rushers are upgraded. The only thing that isn't super upgraded here is the defensive tackles. We can live with that. Wasn't a terrible group. It was the one group that offensive coordinators that played against us said, if we were game planning against Washington, all we cared about was stopping the two defensive tackles, Javon Kinlaw and Daron Payne. We didn't care anything else about anybody on their defense. So the defensive tackles were good last year. Out with Jacob Martin, Von Miller, Preston Smith, and Jalen Holmes. Let me say that again. Yikes, that is so disgustingly nasty. I feel dirty even mentioning these names. Outside of Jacob Martin, I feel dirty mentioning these names. Shout out to Jalen Holmes, former Lake Taylor Titan, but this is nasty, especially when you take out of the mix Dorrance Armstrong Jr. with an injury and you start looking at these names. It's no wonder we were one of the worst defenses in football. Jacob Martin, Von Miller, Preston Smith, P. Boogie back for his second stint in Washington. Ugh, that's nasty. And Jalen Holmes. In Adafe Owe, Kaylavon Chason, Charles Omenihu, and Joshua Josephs. That is a massive overhaul. And then when you throw in the fact that they brought back Dietrich Wise and you're getting Dorrance Armstrong off of IR back from injury, this is a very, very formidable group here. All right. It says, Ben Solak writes, the Commanders' leading snap getter at edge rusher last season was Jacob Martin. At 30 years old and on his seventh team, Martin played 670 snaps, tied for his career high and more than triple the amount he had in any of his previous 4 seasons. We were so down bad. We were asking a journeyman 30-year-old edge rusher to max it out last year. And he did. This was not the plan, of course. The Commanders wanted to start Dietrich Wise Jr. and Dorrance Armstrong, but Wise was placed on injured reserve before week 3, and Armstrong joined him before week 8. Martin became an early down player alongside another veteran journeyman, Preston Smith, with Miller and Holmes in rotational support. Smith and Miller were both well over 30 already, while Holmes turned 30 in January. You want to know why we were one of the oldest rosters, or the oldest roster in football? Because of shit like this. Unsurprisingly, this was not a great rotation. No, it was not. Armstrong was great to start the season, but in his absence, Miller became the Commanders' best pass rusher with an 11.8 pressure rate, below the season average for starting edge rushers. I told you, Von Miller was ass last year. And it sucks that he even led our team in sacks because he didn't garner that type of attention, and he should not have left with those type of numbers. He cleaned up sacks last year. He did not force them. He did not create them. On the year, the Commanders' four-man rush had a pressure rate of 30.5, 23rd best in the league. And I guarantee you that this 30.5 pressure rate was bolstered within the first 6 weeks or so when you had a healthy Dorrance Armstrong and they were getting after the quarterback. I guarantee you that the bulk of that 30.5 happened early in the season. That Giants game in week 1, that Raiders game in week 3. I guarantee you that's where a lot of this pressure came from. Those early games, the Chargers game against the Chargers game, sacking Herbert a ton. We beat him up pretty good. After Dorrance Armstrong got hurt in that Bears game in week 6, I guarantee you that number went kaput. And the only reason we were 23rd is because of what we did the first 6 weeks. Armstrong is on his way back, but it's never good when a 29-year-old coming off of a torn ACL is a load-bearing part of your pass rush. And he won't have to be, which is the beauty of the juice weasel. Washington poured money into the position. It signed Louie to a deal worth $25 million per year when the legal negotiating window opened, and it chased that signing with a 1-year, $12 million deal for Chason. Both of them are speed rushers with recent production spikes. Chason's tally of 7.5 sacks last season for the Patriots was a career best, and Louie's 7.5 sacks with the Chargers were accumulated in only 12 games. Remember, he had no sacks coming over from the Ravens before the trade deadline. Louie and Chason are a little lacking in size and staunchness, so the Commanders also added Amenahu, another familiar face to general manager Adam Peters. He played for the 49ers in 21 and 22 when Peters was still in San Francisco. Amenahu, likewise, is a player with end tackle versatility. New defensive coordinator Durante Jones will benefit from the deep group on late downs when he wants to flood defensive lines with bodies for every gap, a la Brian Flores in Minnesota. The Commanders still don't have a true ringer of a defensive end. Louie was a rotational player with the Chargers even as he was breaking out, but they have a deep group with different body types and much more juice than last season. Good work. That is a perfect way to sum up what they did at edge rusher. We don't have a dynamic winning edge rusher. None of the guys we signed are that. We hope Louie turns into that. We hope that K'Lavon Chason's ascension from last year continues and he exceeds double-digit sacks this year on that 1-year deal. But the truth of the matter is none of these guys are elite edge rushers as of right now. They could become that, but they're not that. But if you put the sum of the parts together at edge rusher, you'll be hard-pressed to find a team that can have the malleability that we will have this upcoming season. I've talked about us being able to do whatever it is that the team in front of us is opting to do. That team wants to spread us out and wants to throw the football. We can put multiple pass rushers on the field at once to try to get after them. If they want to try to load up and go heavy personnel, 12 or 13 personnel, we can put bigger defensive ends on the field to hold up at the point of attack, set a physical edge in the run game, shed and destroy, get to the ball carrier, right? Whatever you want to do, we can do it. Raiders quarterbacks, 49ers receivers, Texans offensive line, Chiefs running backs, Jets defensive line, all just missed out on the list. So that was Ben Solak and him essentially saying that the Commanders are one of the best or most improved front sevens in football. The linebacking group he listed as the third most improved overall group in the league this past offseason, second behind the Giants at the linebacker position in particular. And then we're first on in terms of edge rushers. So this is a group, and we've talked about it. This is a group that I think is the most improved. I think our defense overall is the most improved in football. We were the worst defense in football last year. And if we weren't the worst, we were second to worst, right? Like, it was Dallas, Cincinnati, and us. And I think we were the worst defense in football. If I had to guess, I'd say it was us. So to see all of the changes yesterday, Bill Barnwell said we upgraded the secondary tremendously. He's not wrong. Much like the edge rusher position, it doesn't feature an elite player, at least not yet. Trey Amos could turn into that, right? Hell, Mikey Sainristil, boundary corner in this scheme, could turn into that. But it doesn't feature an elite player at corner, nor safety. Even though we like Nick Cross a ton, doesn't feature an elite player. But the sum of the parts, the amount of guys that you can throw at various positions on the field, give you a level of versatility that is going to fare well and bode well for this team. So an upgrade in the secondary yesterday, according to Bill Barnwell. And then today, Ben Solak says, yeah, you not only upgraded your secondary yesterday with Bill Barnwell, I think you've upgraded your linebacker position, which we know. We've upgraded this tremendously, significantly. You could argue linebacker is the position that has been upgraded the most. I would tell you it's edge rusher, which he had as his number 10 position. But the number one group at the edge rusher position in terms of upgrades on his list. This is an upgraded defensive side of the football in general. And for those of you, and again, this is why when I talk about the disrespect lobbed at the Commanders, how I feel some type of way, because this is the best roster Jaden Daniels has ever been afforded in his young NFL career. This is what I'm talking about. Could they have done more on offense? Sure. They tried, right? They tried to sign Romeo Doubs. They tried to sign Alec Pierce. They tried. They tried to sign Tyler Linderbaum. They tried. Could they have done more? Sure. Could they have done more defensively? Maybe. Could they have signed another corner, signed another safety? Maybe. But overall, when you look at the body of work, and I've said this plenty of times, this is Adam Peters' best job thus far. Overall, from the draft, which everyone said he murdered it, extracted more value than most teams in the league. Think like Indianapolis was one of the few teams that extracted more out of their draft. And then when you look at what he did in free agency, this is a deep, talented team all of a sudden. From slow, unathletic, not deep, and not super talented to potentially one of the most athletically gifted, very talented, high ceiling rosters in one offseason. Again, we still got a ways to go. This is by far, this is nowhere close, nowhere near being a finished product. But when you look at what was done this offseason, we've put ourselves in a position to compete with anybody, especially when you got 5 at quarterback. And now he's got horses around him on offense, but more importantly, a defense that's going to give him an opportunity to potentially thrive this season. You should be really excited. I know I am. I can't speak for you. You should be really excited. I know I am about this defense and what they can be. And if they can generate the football, they can produce the football. Look out. The Commanders could be a massive problem this upcoming season. So let's get to a word from our sponsor real quick. We'll come back on the other side and we'll get to the comment section if any exist, and then we'll get out of here. So shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring this stream. If you aren't a member of the Prize Picks family, no worries, no fret. Link is in the description of this video. Simply click that link. It'll take you to where you can download the app. It's available in states like California, Florida, and Texas. There, Once you downloaded it, confirm that you are who you say you are and you're not a bot. Use the promo code HMA. That's HMA, as you see on the screen. As a first-time user, you will then be eligible to play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineup bonuses when you use that promo code HMA. So yesterday was rough because I can't tell you how many times I've expressed this to you that a blowout is the biggest detriment to a lineup or ticket. Doesn't matter how well it's constructed, how beautiful it's set up. If a blowout occurs, you're probably not going to cash. And yesterday was just excruciating. On Prize Picks, I had a ticket. It was a simple ticket. I wasn't asking for much. I was going to net $26 had I won. It was like a $4, so you're timesing your money by 60%, basically. Like, yeah, sign me up for that. And all I needed was a Devin Vassell point. I had him at 12.5 more. He had 12. If the game wasn't an ass thrashing heading into the fourth, he would have played in the fourth quarter, which he did not. He would have scored an additional point, and my ticket would have cashed. I had several tickets that were like that, where I needed Shea for 4 or 5 points. I needed Wemby for 1 more point. I needed Vassell for that 1 point. I needed, and these are different tickets. It's spread out. I had multiple tickets that 1 or 2 things happen, it cashes. Oh, I remember saying this to my wife yesterday. All I needed was for OKC to not be losing by a gajillion. Had they just been trailing by 15 heading into the fourth, not 28, I would have had a chance to cash. De'Aaron Fox, PRA, just needed 3. The game's close. He's going to get 3 more points, rebounds, assists combined. But no, OKC, waved the white flag, and the Spurs dismantled them. I love game sevens. I love game sevens because you don't have a choice. You can't be getting your ass kicked by 28 and decide, I'm going to pull all my starters with 10 minutes to go, or not even let Shea get off the bench in the fourth quarter. That's not happening in a game 7. Now, we've seen an ass whooping in a game 7 already when the Cavs destroyed the Pistons, but Cade and company played all the way up until I think the 6 or 7 minute mark before they got yanked out of the game. That's still not good, but at least they played in the fourth quarter. I know we're going to get a competitive game 7. And so I'm going to eat. You should too. I'll be back tomorrow before that game tips to give you what I see happening. And I gave you some good nuggets yesterday. I told you Devin Vassell was going to bounce back. I told you Julian Champagnie was going to knock down some threes last night. I told you that they're giving away Alex Caruso because he had a offer, he had a donut, a bagel the night before. I said, they're giving you him at 11.5 points. Take it. He's going to score more than 11 or 12 points. I said, they're begging you because the last time they were on the road, McCain struggled. They're begging you to take more on McCain's points. Do it. All those things happened. Except Vassell scoring 12.5 points more. So anyway, I digress. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring this stream. Once again, use that promo code HMA to get you an opportunity to play $5, get $50 instantly in lineup bonuses. You can follow me on Prize Picks at LouieTeeNetwork if you want to keep track of what I am doing. So let's get to the comment section. Let's see what you guys have to say. Full Command Show. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Full Command Show writes, happy Friday, my guy. Happy Friday, man. TGIF says, very excited about the season. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I cannot wait. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Man, I cannot. This season is going to be one for the ages, I believe. I'm bullish on these boys this year. Bullish. If we stay healthy, You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Nah. Wait till we get our roster right. Oh, well, it's right now. It ain't where it ultimately will be when we are Super Bowl champions. Don't count us out this year, though. But that ain't what I'm predicting. But it's trending in the right direction. Boy, am I excited. Boy, am I excited. I'm right there with you. Right there with you. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise. JP, always great to hear from you, my guy. I've had football withdrawals, so I found myself watching early 2000 games and found some Redskins merch in my attic too. Wow. So did you have those games on VHS? Did one of your family members have it on VHS, or did you just go on YouTube and find those games? Because there are some games up there. There's some highlights and things of that nature. If you're looking for it, you can find it. Finding some Redskins merch in the attic that's interesting, to say the least. I hope it was in boxes and covered up, because that sounds like some cobwebs and some nasty stuff. You should see remember I told you guys I was 5 when we won the Super Bowl. The last time we won the Super Bowl. And I had a Hutch helmet, starter, uniform combo. They used to come in a one container helmet, little fake jersey, and pants, right? I still have the helmet. It is in rough shape. Wow. It's terrible. One day I'm going to have to bring it and show it to you guys. It's terrible. But I still have it. Donovan the Baller, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, the Jaden throw to Terry vid on IG got me hyped. Come on, man. Talk about it. Talk about it, man. Shit, I ain't even gonna hold you. And it wasn't even a big throw. It wasn't as nice as the one that you're referring to. The Jaden to Diami throw got me hyped in slow motion. I told you they was gonna do that. I said, you just gonna get one, little throw, Jaden throwing the ball to somebody, and they're gonna slow it down. Boom. And you're gonna get one throw, and it's gonna be like, oh shit, my quarterback. Donovan the Baller, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, what do you think about Terry's new helmet? I gotta see it. I haven't paid enough attention to it to give it any credence to be able to like, that's fire, or I don't like it. I haven't looked at it enough. So I'll have to check it out and see what you are referring to. Navy Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, and thank you for the blessing in the 50 spot. My guy, Navy Ramjet. How's the little one, man? How's she doing? We got to be getting close to 1, huh? We got to be right around the corner from there. Got to be. Blessings to you and the family, Louie. Likewise. Haven't been able to catch anything live in quite a while, but I'm always watching the videos. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me, man. Really appreciate you and the support as always. I never miss one. That's love, man. Real love. That's real love, man. Appreciate you, bro. Just wanted to say hi and thank you for everything you do for us. You're a part of my family, as you are mine, and this community that we've created. So thank you so much, Navy Ramjet. Truly do appreciate you, my guy. And it's always great to hear from you, and blessings to you and the fam, and kiss the little one for me. I imagine that she's got to be almost walking if she's not walking by now. Definitely crawling for sure. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, our front seven is a million times better, especially at linebacker. Talk about it, JP. My nickname for the trio of Chanel, Styles, and Louvu is Hydra. All fast, athletic, nasty boys. Nasty boys. They are some nasty boys. I can't wait to see these guys in action. Action. Can't wait to see these boys in action, man. This division ain't gonna know what hit them. They so used to us having a basic ass trash defense that they could do it whatever they want. You can do whatever you like. Yeah, against us. Shit's about to change. The scheme itself is gonna make it difficult. Then you add real talent into the mix. Shit's about to get real spooky for some of these teams out here who think shit's sweet when they play the Commanders defensively. So many people so caught up on what this team was last year that they fail to realize how much we've upgraded and how much better we are on both sides of the football. Hell, we may be even upgraded on special teams. Let me upgrade you. We might even be upgraded on special teams if Drew Stevens pans out. That was one of the conversations me and my guy Sanford was talking about. He's like, man, I want me a real kicker, man. Sick of watching teams like Dallas and Jacksonville barely cross the 50 and they already in field goal range. I want some of that action, bro. We all do. We all do. We all do. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, writes, give me the Spurs to shock the world and send OKC home. We can put a prayer circle together to make that happen. I'm all for it, man. Join hands. Everybody bow their heads. Let's pray. I can't stand the Thunder, bro. I'm praying and praying on their downfall. I swear I hope the Spurs do the unthinkable and go in there and win. I don't see it happening. I think OKC is going to win the game. But if Wemby shows up and shows out, and Castle and Harper, the Harper we saw in Game 6 shows up, and Champagnie is knocking down some shots like he has been the last 2 games, and Vassell is knocking down the 3 like he was in Game 6. They got a great shot with Jalen, and we knew Jalen Williams wasn't going to be right in this series. I'm shocked that he even came back and played in Game 6. He's already been ruled out of Game 7. They're going to have to do this without him. Even if they make the NBA Finals, he's not going to be right for that series. He's not going to be right until next year. They're going to have to win this thing without him. They're deep enough to do it. And when they go home, they usually get the whistle. The intensity ratchets up, and they usually are able to knock down shots that they miss on the road. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think you're going to see the inexperience of the Spurs show up like we've seen each of the last 2 games in OKC where they've struggled mightily. Games 3, not so much mightily, but they weren't able to close the show there. They were in that ball game. And then Game 5, they weren't competitive really in that game. So I think you're going to see that show up in Game 7, unfortunately. Now, I think they're going to fight. It's not going to be them rolling over. They're going to be in that game, but I just think it'll be too much Shea and company. But, boy, I'm right there with you. I'm praying the Spurs get it done. Abel Ambrosio, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Abel Ambrosio, writes, seeing JD throwing a bomb to Terry at practice got me excited for the season. Remember, we heard Candy Waller tell us that there was a great throw. We read it on a couple when we went over day 1 of OTAs. We went through combed through all of the social media posts, and Zach Selby talked about it. That was one of the highlights of practice, that throw from Jaden to Terry. John Kahn mentioned it as well, if I'm not mistaken. So now we actually got to see the visual proof and evidence of it. Gorgeous. They're back. They're so back. I got one of those videos in the chamber coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned for that. Coming to a screen near you. Club 100 TV. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Club 100 TV writes, Lou, do you think they are grooming Blau to be the next head coach? No, I don't think they're grooming him to be the next head coach. I think they are grooming him to be the best play caller that he can be. And eventually that's going to lead to him being a head coach if he is as good as advertised, as everyone says he's going to be. You're never really grooming a head coach per se, unless, you know, you take him under your wing and you show him all of the things. Just like DQ, he basically groomed him to become a new offensive coordinator because he knew at some point either Cliff was going to get a job or they were going to move on from Cliff. They were grooming him. They gave him more responsibility. They gave him play calling responsibilities at practice. They allowed him to lead meetings, things that you don't do with assistant quarterback coaches, right? And Blau talked about that. So they were grooming him to be an OC. I don't know if they're going to groom him to be a head coach now. I could see DQ pouring into him and helping him establish some of the things that he needs to be prepared when that opportunity presents itself. But DQ's not looking at David Blau as his replacement. He's not looking at it that way. And you can't look at it that way, because if Blau's as good as you need him to be, he's going to help you keep your job. He's going to help you keep your job. So they need each other. They need each other. Now, if the defense somehow manages to be as still and the offense is dynamic and it leads to this team not being successful, then that weight could fall on Dan Quinn, and they could look at the success of the offense with David Blau and say, hey, you know what? You're the next head coach of this team. But that's highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely. Right now, it feels like Blau's main objective here is to get this offense in to the best position he possibly can, maximize the talent on this roster offensively, and then let the chips fall where they may afterwards. And if that leads to him getting a head coaching job down the road, so be it. But that's a conversation that I don't think anybody's really concerned with right now, because we haven't even seen him call a play yet by himself, right? We've seen him be the architect of plays that were called, but we haven't seen him call a single play for himself yet. So got to see what it all looks like. JJ, forever. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, the NFC East is giving me that 90s feel. A good NFC East is great for football. It is. This division is vastly improved, but how much? How much so? We're going to find out. Right out of the gates. You get both NFC East matchups right out of the gates. You get another NFC East matchup the following week with us in Dallas. So we're going to find out very quickly what's what. We got the Seahawks in week 3, right? The Cowboys have the Ravens in week 3. Like, we're going to find out how good this division is very quickly. Very quickly. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Door Gunner writes, Giants have 3 players with torn Achilles already. SOG. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I don't want no smoke. I know exactly why that's taking place in New York. Mouth is shut, bro. Zip it up and zip it out. I'm gonna keep my my nose out of affairs that don't belong to me, man. That's all I'm gonna say. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Anyway, I digress. That was the last super chat, which means that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, on this Friday evening. Hope the weekend treats you well. I will be back tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow. We got more business to attend to. And we got an NBA Western Conference Finals Game 7 to talk about. So I've got multiple reasons to come back and check for y'all tomorrow. So enjoy the night. Have a great nightcap. I'm going to go have me a nice glass of wine, sit on the couch, and enjoy the company of my wife. You guys enjoy your rest of the day. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You know what this is. Post up. take command. You guys have a good one. Peace.